welcome to our third webinar in a Sales Cloud FastPass series. Thank you all for joining today. I can still see the numbers are quickly rising in terms of those who are joining our webinar. So we will have a few minutes for everyone to dial in while I'll go through some basics and some of the things that came up yesterday and some of the questions that I've received over email. So a number of things just before we kick off. Obviously, all of the information about the FastPath, including the deck and recording, is available on Partner Community. Most of you will know by now how to find it and where it is. If you don't, please feel free to send me an email and I will forward you the details of how to find it. We won't have the time to go through it on our webinar. The second one is questions from yesterday. I haven't yet managed to complete all of the answers, but I will make sure that it is done by the end of the week. And I'll also add questions from today. There may be some questions we won't have time to get to, so do bear that in mind. Second one, on the topic of questions, there has been some comments and questions around the trail mix that you should do and follow and all that kind of good stuff. There isn't really a right or wrong answer. The trail mix that I provided you with at the beginning of the session in the webinar that we kicked off this series last week, is designed to really complement this webinar series. So we discuss some of the content and overview during the webinars, and then you follow the trail mix within Trailhead to complement what it is that we are discussing in the webinars. However, I'm pretty sure, and some of you have also commented on it, that when you search Trailhead for Sales Cloud trail mixes, there's a number of them, and some of them may have a slightly different information. There might be other stuff that isn't in those trail mixes. It really is individual approach in terms of how you want to go about it. Some of those trail mixes are designed to just be kind of stand-alone preparation for the exam without any webinars to go with it. So that's one of the reasons why they may be different. Secondly, a lot of them are designed by individuals who who have been preparing for exams and all that. So they may be different. They may have been designed at a different point in time as well. There is no right or wrong. If you feel that there is an area that you definitely need to review, and for some reason it isn't in our trail mix, feel free to go through it on Trailhead. For most parts, the Trailhead, the trail mix we've designed does cover most of the areas that are outlined in the exam to the best of their abilities. Not everything is on Trailhead. Do remember that every consultant certification is a combination of your knowledge from your implementations, the experience that you have, combined with the theoretical part of understanding Salesforce products, be it sales or service cloud or any other cloud you may be wanting to take certification for. So I hope that clarifies it a little bit for you. Most of you who have been attending the webinars either last week or yesterday will know my name by now. If you haven't, and this is your first webinar, I have seen some people have registered since yesterday. So if this is your first webinar, this is how to find me. So make sure you make a note of my email to send me an email if you need anything or you need help finding the resources for the FastPath. Today, we have another busy day and a busy agenda with implementation strategies, Sales Cloud solution design, integration and data management, and communities and site management. So definitely, as you can see, a big portion of the exam as well. If for whatever reason we don't manage to go through everything that we have assigned for today, we do have a bit of a leeway to discuss few things tomorrow before before the exam style quiz. I'll make sure that if that is the case and that does happen, I'll record that portion of the webinar. But let's hope we'll have time to discuss everything today. We did have quite a lot of questions yesterday. These sessions can vary depending on, how many questions individuals ask and so on. So that's why sometimes we are faced with ever so slight overrunning. Equally, I've run these sessions in the past and quite a few of them have finished before the time. So it's a credit to you that you're asking a lot of good questions. So feel free to keep them coming. And on that note, we will be diving into communities and site management. And just to kind of repeat myself from yesterday, what I will try to do is take a pause after each of the sections that we'll be discussing today and answer a few of the questions that you may be asking while I'm presenting. For those of you who are not familiar with GoToWebinar, there's a question panel in the GoToWebinar control panel. You can post your questions there. I can see that we have a few questions already. The webinar today isn't the same as yesterday. It's a different webinar. Today we're discussing different topics. I hope, Maxim, that is kind of clear to you. We have a different topics today than we had yesterday. All right, let's dive into communities. Communities form a relatively small part of the exam. And it's really about understanding when you should use communities on the Sales Cloud implementation. And what are the best kind of scenarios where you can advise customers to use communities and be able to help them make the right decisions. This is a simplified version of how communities work and what they allow you to do. Basically, communities extend Salesforce org record visibility to the external audience, and depending on the type of licenses that we are going to use, those external users will be able to see different things, and we will dive into it in a bit more detail as we go on through our slides. Community Cloud is a Salesforce product, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of you have heard about it. If you haven't and you've never worked with communities, I definitely recommend going through some trails in Trailhead to familiarize yourself with communities. We won't be deep diving into communities here. Some of you may have heard there is a separate certification for Community Cloud. One of my colleagues in my team is actually running FastPath for Community Cloud as well. So if communities is something that you work a lot with and you'd like to certify, make sure that you attend their FastPath as well. You can find them in Partner Community once you search for Community Cloud as well. But when thinking about Community Cloud in practice, it really is essentially a collection of apps or kind of digital experiences sitting on top of a CRM. These experiences allow to expose processes and kind of expose visibility to those processes to external users. They can exist on their own in a form of a site, but practically there tends to always be a connection to either sales, service, marketing, or commerce, or a few of them in a customer setting. And you may have heard some of the namings before. PRM stands for Partner Relationship Management and is often linked to Sales Cloud. Self-service community very much kind of linked to service operations as well as customer account portal, external apps, and Lightning Bolt. They kind of allow you to build a little bit more customized customized solutions for Community Cloud. But as I said, we won't be diving into too much detail about those. Neither will the Sales Cloud certification. And just for you to remember what you can build on Community Cloud and what are the sort of main use cases for it. As I said, PRM, partner relationship management, self-service, customer account portal, and kind of ability to build your own app. There's also a Lightning Bolt solutions where you're able to access some of the custom solutions that have been built by other partners through ISV channels as well. This is probably an important part for the exam because there's usually a question, there used to be anyway, a question around what type of license is needed to allow users to see certain things. And this is kind of a very good high-level overview of how partner community licenses work. So customer community, Customer Community Plus, and partner community. And as you can see, they kind of go up in size. And this is really the sort of the reflection of how much, on a high level, we'll go into a little bit more detail on how much visibility and access there to external users they give based on the license that we implement. So customer community, main use cases, B2C, visibility of cases, discussion, knowledge articles, basically some kind of high volume scenarios where we need to allow customers and external users to see information that is relatively basic. Customer Community Plus, if we want those customers or those external users to be able to perform additional tasks, like being allowing to have delegated admins, or for them to have ability to view reports and dashboards, and to be able to implement some additional sharing rules, then we're talking about Customer Community Plus. Sometimes what comes up on the exam is, they give you a scenario where they list what the external user needs to see, and for you to decide which license needs to be used. So kind of remember what different licenses cover. And on top of this, partner community also allows you to for the external users to see leads and opportunities, and it's mainly used in a channel sales scenarios, and more so focused on B2B as well. And this is just kind of highlighted the reports and dashboards for the Customer Community Plus. Again, this is a quick summary of how this looks like. These, up until August 18, were 3 main types of licenses that were available on Partner Community, and still are very much the licenses that are most talked about. However, we have added additional licenses since last year: the Lightning External App and Lightning External App Plus. And a Lightning External App, the first one here, it's all about knowledge and facilitating discussion and customer based or kind of high volume. As you can see, it won't give you access to cases or ideas, so very much a basic setup. But if it's something that some organizations may prefer to, because it's not quite as built out license, and obviously facilitates a lot of the high volume conversations. And the last one that has been added, Lightning External App Plus, it's very much targeted at custom and very custom solutions that are built on Community Cloud. And this is kind of just a summary of kind of and a breakdown of license types and what it is that they cover, different types of objects, amount of objects they cover, and what kind of what type of licenses they're essentially made up of in terms of visibility. So definitely worthwhile reviewing before your exam. This is here we can see just an example. Bear in mind, it is an example of how to decide on the different type of license for your customers. There may be different scenarios that you may have to consider, but this is one of a simplified versions. And when thinking about community users, as you know, really community users are Salesforce users who also require roles and profiles to control what they can see and what they can do. There's only one product called Community Cloud, but there's different features managed by different licenses, as we discussed, and these licenses unlock different access and functionality. Some of the considerations worth remembering: different features are available based on license type purchase. So make sure that when you're implementing this for your customer, you're fully aware of what type of licenses they've purchased. Partner users are created automatically from the contact detail page. The three roles in the partner hierarchy are partner user, partner manager, and partner executive. The partner user rolls up to the partner manager role, which then rolls up to partner executive role. Pretty self-explanatory. The global header in Community Cloud allows internal users to switch between the internal org and any communities they may be a member of. And that's really it in terms of access portals and visibility. And just some of the best practice considerations: make sure that online help and support, if community is used, is visible. It's easy to find for the users. Definitely work on corporate match of the look and feel of the community, and perhaps some other website they organizations may be using, and to kind of reflect the brand and how it wants to portray itself. Always make sure that the content provided within community is clear and readable. Make sure that the sharing rules are configured accordingly. Again, obviously depending on the licenses that have been purchased. And if the standard configuration of Community Cloud does not provide the necessary branding or functionalities, you do have ability to kind of expand into the Lightning App Plus and some of the custom build. We're going to move on to a solution design, but just before we do that, I'll quickly dig into some of the questions. And Nicholas, I'm not sure what are you talking about. There will be another webinar covering this stream. If you're referring to Community Cloud certification, there's a separate fast path for Community Cloud. Yes, this is a third webinar. Tomorrow is the fourth one, and the webinar tomorrow, for all intents and purposes, is going to be a review and exam style quiz, and that particular webinar isn't recorded, except for the portion if we do overrun with some of the topics today and I need to present them tomorrow, I will definitely record that part. Did I email yesterday's recordings? No, I don't email recordings. As I said, recordings are available on Partner Community. If you don't know how to find them, make sure you email me and I'll forward you the link on how to do that. In terms of visibility for licenses, make sure that you review the slides that are in the deck. I won't be kind of going back into that. So for those of you who want to see the different records that are being made visible through different licenses, make sure that you review that. What is an employee community and how it fits into this diagram? Again, employee community is kind of an internal community where we might want to share some of the information with our audience. I think in terms of the licenses, it's probably before it used to be the first one, that kind of the customer community, not the plus one, but the basic one. But again, I think one of the reasons why we've introduced the sort of the Lightning app, the basic license, is really to facilitate some of that employee communities. But it very much will depend on what it is that we want employees to be able to see within the partner community. That will kind of determine what type of license we should be using. Is the document that I'm looking at available to you, as in the presentation? Yes, presentations are available through Partner Community. And again, where can I access the recordings? Partner Community. If you don't know how to do it, I've been showing this on the first webinar last week. If you didn't attend that and you don't know how to find it, send me an email. All right, let's go into solution design. And when thinking about solution design and that particular portion of the exam, it really is about getting together all of what we've discussed about marketing and leads, account and contact management, opportunity management, communities, and all that stuff that we've covered, and essentially being able to design best possible solutions to our customers. In terms of the exam and in the exam context, it's really about being able to understand what the particular scenario in the question that is being described asks for, and what is the best solution in that particular case. So when thinking about solution design, we really should have productivity at the forefront. How do we improve productivity? And in terms of improving productivity, automation is key. It's a kind of a foundation of that strategy. Instead of relying on users to perform each part of the business process, we should always make sure that we are automating it wherever possible. Salesforce and Sales Cloud in this particular instance offers tools to automate several kinds of business processes, guided visual experiences, behind the scenes automation, and approval automation as well. Choosing automation tools is often related to answers to some of the questions, such as how a record gets approved, what to do when a record has certain values, what information needs to be collected from users or customers, and what needs to happen when that information is collected. With Salesforce, you may have different options when implementing a solution. And as I said, the certification is very much about being able to distinguish which one is best in the particular scenario you're faced with. For example, if you need to simplify the way that users collect information and ensure accuracy, visual workflow tools may be the best option in that particular scenario, but there's also process builder exercises which may be more relevant if it's a relatively straightforward scenario. Approval processes are also ways to increase productivity and can be used to improve data quality as well. You also have Flow Designer, which lets you create a flow that displays information to and request information from a user, then take the information that the user has entered, and you're able to perform a certain action with it. When thinking about different automations that are available to you, start with Process Builder, especially for processes with the kind of if and then statement. Where possible, use Process Builder. Process Builder includes almost all kind of workflow rules, functionality, and more. But you can also use workflow rules within Visual Force emails, templates to access opportunity products and all the kind of good stuff. If the process is too complicated for the process builder, you may want to switch to Flow, which kind of builds on that functionality and provides some more advanced features. Another type of kind of productivity tool that is available to you and kind of helping users with increasing their productivity is record types and page layouts. And although they seem fairly straightforward and something that we use on a regular basis, they're definitely seen as part of something that does increase users' productivity, because we help them input the right information for the right type of record. Record types lets you offer different business processes, pick list values, and page layouts to different users. You might create record types to differentiate your regular sales deals from your professional service agreements. Page layouts let you control and organize things like buttons, fields, F controls, Visual Force, custom links, as well as related lists. And they also help you determine which fields are visible, read-only, and required. Another tool that is at your disposal and available to help you out with some of that productivity issues are validation rules. Validation rules essentially verify that the data that the user has entered in a particular record meets the standards specified before the user can save the record. Validation rules can contain a formula or expression that evaluates the data in one or more fields and returns a value of true or false. Validation rules are a very important part of data quality, and they kind of act as custodians of data quality and the data that is being entered into the system. We covered marketing and leads yesterday, and these are just some of the considerations for lead conversion, which form part of solution design. And at the top of the slide, the sort of the highlighted part, you have a link to the document on considerations for converting leads. So there is a more built out version of this slide. But some of the ones that are worth highlighting is when you convert qualified leads, Salesforce moves any campaign members to the new contacts. The leads become read-only records unless your administrator gives you permission to edit them. If existing accounts and contacts share the names specified on the leads, you can choose to update the existing contacts and accounts, and obviously preventing duplication. Salesforce adds information from the lead into empty fields then, and Salesforce does not override existing accounts and contact data. There are probably 3 points that are worth remembering when thinking about leads. If the lead matches an existing contact and both records are linked to the same campaign, the campaign member status is determined by whichever is further along in the life cycle of the campaign. Related campaign information is always associated with the new contact record. And the most recently associated campaign is applied to the primary campaign source field on the opportunity. And last but not least, some of the best practices. When converting a lead, a new contact is created, a new account is created, and you can optionally create a new opportunity as well. That also is dependent, obviously, of what we discussed yesterday. being some of the customers you may be working with may not necessarily use that kind of standard lead and opportunity process, so this may not always be relevant to them. However, I would always recommend a review of the process that they have. Perhaps it's something they should consider. And worthwhile remembering that during that conversion process, duplication of records can happen. So make sure that duplication rules are enabled, and when those leads are being converted, that users aren't just sort of mindlessly converting leads into contacts and accounts, but are prompted to select perhaps some of the ones that already exist. And last but not least, leads, and I briefly mentioned this in a previous slide, leads cannot be viewed after conversion because they are being, once they are converted, they turn into a read-only records, but users can run a report on leads that have been converted. So that's one way of being able to access them. And coming back ever so slightly to some of the items we've discussed around Process Builder and different automation tools. Salesforce to Salesforce allows you to share records with business partners to whom you are connected. There are two ways to share records. You can forward records directly to connections or assign records to queue of connections. You can share the same records with multiple connections. Once shared, connections must choose to accept the particular record. Salesforce to Salesforce, once enabled, cannot be disabled. So make sure that you are aware of that. This kind of also links back to what we discussed yesterday around content sharing. So make sure that you review the details of how Salesforce to Salesforce works. There is a link on this slide that you'll be able to follow for more details. And we've touched on Process Builder and how you can kind of start thinking about it. Obviously, if you want to know a little bit more about Process Builder and how to work with it, there is a trail in our trail mix on Process Builder. If you haven't worked with it, make sure that you do. This is the best way to get hands-on with it. And some of the considerations around campaign members. Campaign members are created from lead, contact, or person account records and are linked to a campaign. This related list of the campaign is available from lead, contact, or person account. That's why you'd be able to see it there. We covered accounts and account teams and opportunity teams briefly yesterday when we were talking about account management and opportunity management. And just to recap, an account team is a team of users who work together on an account. For example, an account team can include an executive sponsor, dedicated support representatives, project managers. Using account teams makes it easy to track collaboration on particular account. You can build an account team for each account that you own, or in your particular case, the users within the organization you're working for. When selecting an account, team members, you are able to specify the role that the person plays on that particular account. Depending on the sharing model that has been specified for the organization, each account team member, then their level of access to the account and any contacts, opportunities, or cases associated with the account may vary. That way, you can give some team members read-only access and others read-write. You can set up a default accounts team that includes the people who you normally work with on your account. You can choose to automatically add this default account team to all your accounts. And similarly with opportunity teams, it is a group of Salesforce users who work together on a sales opportunity. Opportunity teams show who's working on a particular opportunity and what each team member's role is. And when thinking about account and opportunity accounts and opportunity teams are an important part of the solution of being able to share some of the visibility and are definitely a collaborative way of working and contribute to the productivity to kind of increasing the productivity of teams that may be working, whether it be account or opportunity. Another part of our solution design and how we, one of the considerations that we should take into account is territory management. Territory management helps you model your sales territories into a logical but flexible structure that connects sales reps to the accounts they sell to. Territory management is a way of granting or kind of segregating your sales team's access. You can almost think of territories as a bucket in which you throw accounts or opportunities, and users who have access to that bucket can see the account or opportunity respectively. The territory does not have an owner, but if you are in a bucket, then you get to kind of see things in that particular bucket. Sometimes users, people ask what is kind of territory hierarchy versus role hierarchy. And one thing to remember is that users can only be assigned to a single role, but can be members of multiple territories. When thinking about territories, you also have territory types. They help you organize your territories by key characteristics important to the particular organization you're working with. Every territory you create must have a territory type. Territory types are used for organizing and creating territories only, and they do not appear on territory model hierarchies. So for example, you might create a territory type called universal telco named accounts. And then from that type, create territories that include named accounts, or you might create a territory type called US. And from that type, create territories based on, kind of the states or regions within a particular country. Solution design and as I mentioned earlier, thinking about it in terms of productivity is also quite heavily connected to Salesforce app. And although these days using an app doesn't seem like such a big deal, it has been when Salesforce launched it. It was formerly known as Salesforce One, at some point referred to Salesforce Mobile. Now it's just known as Salesforce App. And it is a big part of working with Salesforce for those sales users who can often be on the road. It allows the users to receive approvals submitted via Salesforce app, as well as the notifications that display as both in-app and push notifications. You can allow them to convert leads to existing contacts directly from their mobile devices. They can convert qualified leads, and they have all the information that is needed for them to reach out to those people while they're on the road. Similarly, the duplication rules apply to it, so make sure that when you're setting up Salesforce app, that is also taken into consideration, and it's easy to use for the users on the desktops, but also on their mobile devices. This is a further investigation of some of the use cases for account and opportunity teams. I won't be going through it into much detail. I'll definitely be sharing the deck with you, so you can review this in your own time. There's a few links here that are highlighted that you can access and you know, kind of review and access some more information on some of those topics. And last but not least, when thinking about the solution design, we also have our app exchange and what is also known as our ISV partners. And although I'm not anticipating there to be questions on the Sales Cloud exam about specific applications, because we are not examining you on knowing what applications are available, but it is worth remembering that sometimes third-party application may be more a favorable solution than building something from scratch, building a custom solution. There is an array of different products that are available on our app exchange that covers some of the more niche areas or you know, different kind of scenarios that you may be faced with on your when working with your customers. So it's definitely worthwhile kind of having an understanding of what it is that is available on App Exchange. And if there is a part of the process that you're not able to fill with the standard and that Salesforce offers, before you dive into custom solutions, do check App Exchange before you do that and before you kind of go in with that to the customer. All right, I feel like that has been quite a long part. Solution design is kind of always quite a large segment, just because it goes through everything in a little bit more detail that we've discussed so far, so covers quite a lot of ground. I'm just going to dive into some of the questions that are there. Okay, the last webinar, yes, the last webinar will be tomorrow. It's exactly the same time, and you should be able to use the same link as you used today. For those of you who are, if you registered for the FastPass series, you are automatically registered for all of the exams. So there is a reminder that is sent a day before the webinar and an hour before the webinar, so you'll definitely receive the link. Oh, when is it right to recommend an app exchange product to a client? It definitely varies on a case-to-case basis. In my experience, a lot of the times, there's a number of scenarios where this will be appropriate, but a lot of the times ISV solutions are used for some of the smaller customers who have a very niche kind of examples of using you know, kind of sales processes, and as you know, some of them may not be covered, you know, covering ground within the standard functionality. Similarly, there's specific cases, like for example DocuSign, when there's when there's signature required on some of the documents that are being sent to customers. And there may be some examples of, let's say, custom kind of more custom solutions that are required for a specific portion of the functionality. I don't think that there is ever a one answer to that particular question, unfortunately, Ian. But I definitely think that you know, if the solution that you would build as custom will require customer to you know, to have a substantial investment in that build, and there is a similar solution that exists on App Exchange, there's definitely a case for using App Exchange over building custom. App Exchange has grown over the years, and it's definitely used very wildly across the board, across different partners. I think every partner, a lot of the, I think pretty much every customer that I worked with in the past, when I worked on the implementation side, have been using some example of ISV partner. What is the difference between process and the flow? Flow allows you to solve some of the scenarios that may be a little bit more complex. Unfortunately, we don't have time to dive into it in more detail. But if you follow the trail mix, there is a trail for Process Builder and for the flow, and they will give you an overview what the kind of main differences between them are. Cool. Let's go into implementation strategies. We have 15 minutes left, so I'm trying to make sure that we go through everything that we need to. When thinking about implementation strategies in a Salesforce context, and especially in the exam context, we are talking about ideal Salesforce implementation. I know that a lot of you working for different partners may have different approaches or more individualistic types of implementation strategies. There's Agile, there's combination of Agile, there's Wagile. I've heard a lot of different names, but however you call it, and however whichever whichever strategy you kind of have for implementation, there's some rules that should apply to all of them. And before you even dive into any type of implementation, kind of thinking about the sort of high level preparation for it, setting the vision for the particular implementation. Is the vision set by the organization? Is the organization kind of in understanding what they're trying to achieve, rather than just, oh, we're implementing Salesforce, but we don't really know what we want from it. What are the success metrics? If we are going with the implementation, what is, how are we going to measure whether it's successful? Roadmap. Thinking about what are the different stages of the implementation that we are working with. Is this something that is like a one-stop shop? Chances are that a lot of the times it is a sort of incremental process when we're building different releases and building and kind of different types of functionalities, onboarding different departments and so on. Making sure that the governance for the whole program is established, and the different parts of the particular program and transformation that the organization may be going through are established. Also kind of remembering about architectural principles, making sure that that the organization has a kind of a blueprint of how to work and what the best practices are. Sponsorship and governance, again, it's crucial to the success of every project, making sure that the sponsors of this particular transformation, project, implementation, that they are actively involved, that we know who they are, and that we engage with them, and that they engage with their, in turn, they engage with their audience, which is going to be ultimately using the system that will be impacted by the change we are implementing. And last but not least, adoption. Adoption is often a part of the implementation that is kind of tends to be an afterthought, but in reality, it is something that we should be thinking very early on, making sure that there are processes and sort of tasks in place that help us kind of prepare for how we're going to deal with adoption of particular system, program that is going to be used within the organization. And as I said, some of you may be working with different types of methodologies, but on a high level, all of those different types of methodologies should have those stages included in them. And worth kind of remembering is the abbreviation PADBVD, which stands for Plan, Analyze, Design, Build, Validate, and Deploy. As I said, depending on the type of methodology you're working with, some of these may be intertwined, like build and validate. There may be different iterations of deploy as well. This is kind of more typical to waterfall-ish approach, if that makes sense. But all of these stages should be included in every methodology, regardless of how how they kind of find its way across the span of the project implementation. What often comes up during the exam is kind of understanding what each phase is made up of. So plan, analysis, design, build, validate, and deploy, and the different milestones that are kind of falling within that. So make sure that you review this slide and are aware of what each of the phases involves. There's usually a question or two on that. And just to quickly kind of summarize it, some of the milestones for each of the phases: planning, so project plan, budgeting, training. And this is why I say that kind of training and adoption should be definitely something that's considered very early on, and definitely in the planning stage. Often enough, it's considered too late, and trying to kind of play catch up with it. Plan for communication and plan for implementation, analysis, requirements workshop, prioritization, requirements document sign off, design, solution design, technical design, and test approach. Build, obviously your configuration, integration, and preparation for data migration, if in fact it is happening. Validate, end-to-end testing. As I said, validate can look a bit differently depending on type of methodology you work with. You may have in-sprint testing that happens concurrently to build, and then there may be UAT and SIT phase. So yeah, it will vary ever so slightly. And obviously deployment, again, sometimes there may be a big bang. Sometimes you may be working with implementations that have incremental deployment, but the big part of it is definitely final data migration, final integration, go live, post-deployment support, and training. When thinking about project and how to kind of pace it, we recommend this sort of crawl, walk, run approach, which would suggest that it's an incremental implementation. But I also understand that some of the customers you're working with may not necessarily want that. It is easier to kind of think about implementations in increments and start off small and then build upon it. But any successful implementation that you hopefully will be a part of will involve decision makers, key stakeholders, and making sure that they are all aligned around how we are going to work. Knowing the key audience, whether it's for your communication, whether it's for the system you're implementing and training you're preparing, as well as user adoption, understanding who those key people are is crucial to overall success. And in terms of measuring the success of implementation, App Exchange has a user adoption dashboard. User adoption tends to be one of the measures that is used as a metric of success. It shouldn't be the only one, because there's a number of ways of measuring how well users have received the system, whether it's through chatter posts and the frequency with which they use it, etc. Number of account opportunities that are being created, data quality reporting. There's a number of ways that organizations can go about it. And that's why it's important to make sure that you understand what success metrics for that organization are early on, so you can prepare for that as you build the system, but also as you prepare reporting to be able to prove that the implementations that have delivered on the points they were trying to achieve. All right, Last but not least, integration and data management. It's a very small portion of the exam. It's usually around 2 to 3 questions, and it doesn't go into heavy detail. So you don't need to be a developer to be able to answer some of these questions. But it's really about understanding a high level of how integration and data management works. Integrations with Salesforce are common as companies want to simplify the user experience, increase productivity, and make disconnected systems mobile. Whether it's through user interface, whether it's through application layer or data layer, there may be a number of different integrations you might be working with as you progress your career with Salesforce products. There's also data management, and there's usually a question on some form of something connected with data management. The two primary methods of loading data into Salesforce are data import wizard and data loader. Be aware of different use cases for each of them, as well as pros and cons and limitations of the different methods. Choosing a method to import data into Salesforce does depend on the volume of data. It's one of the dependencies for sure is understanding what data volumes you're dealing with and what is necessary. As you can see with data loader, you can upload up to 5 million records. This can vary depending on the type of the data loading tool you're using. There's other tools that are available through other providers as well, but these are available to you within Salesforce context. Some of the considerations when thinking about and preparing for data migration, and data migration can take longer and cause records to fail when some of the triggers are enabled. So make sure that when you are loading records that you are prepared for it, and triggers aren't firing right, left, and center. You should also remember that the order of migration, since contacts are linked to accounts need to be loaded first. Similarly, since opportunities are linked to accounts need to be loaded first, and so on. And an important consideration when loading data into Salesforce is ownership data skew. Performance issues can arise resulting from a large data upload assigned to a single user. One of the common patterns involves customer concentrating ownership of data to a single user or a queue. So make sure that you are aware of how the data is of the customer you're working with is structured. Some other things to remember: update sharing rules during a time of the day that kind of will minimize the impact on the users. It's often done overnight or over the weekend. For large data volumes, updating sharing rules is best done after business hours. You can improve system performance by making sure that the data is structured in a correct way. Sometimes this will involve working with data cleaning tools as well, as some of the customers, and I'm sure you're very familiar with it, may not necessarily have the best quality of data that you need to work with. So some of these may need to be considered before you're able to even attempt on data migration. And last but not least, some of the consideration for large data volumes. When running reports on large data sets and calculating totals, this can definitely impact how system performs, especially when you're using roll-ups and relationship-based calculations. Also, when running reports based on large data sets, calculating opportunity totals per account can lead to performance issues. So make sure that you're factoring that in, that your customer understands that. And when customer needs a report of data and there are large data volumes. We're talking here about like millions of records. You may want to use a different reporting tool like Salesforce Analytics to be able to give them a better experience. And with just 1 minute to spare, we have managed to go through all of the content today. So that's great news. Tomorrow, as mentioned earlier, we will be going through exam style quiz and an overview of what it is that we've covered so far. Just a quick reminder, the webinar tomorrow is not being recorded. So if you want to participate in a live exam style quiz, make sure you dial in, same time, 3 p.m. British Summer Time. For those of you who are new and don't know how to find the recording and deck, feel free to send me an email. I will do my best to update the question answers that were posted yesterday and today by the end of the week. I can't promise that I'll do it tomorrow. There's quite a lot on my plate, but I'll do my best to do it by the end of the week. The link to that Q&A is in the QUIP document shared through Partner Community, so you'll be able to find it there. I just have a quick question here.